Man, there is a story in the Bible about a man named Joseph. Everybody know who Joseph is, right?
Yes.
Amen. You may be seated. He was a very special person, and it was because God dealt with him in dreams. And I was sitting last night on the couch, and I was asking God. I was like, "Well, you gave me one topic, and now you changed it to this, and you changed it to this." And as I began to walk up the steps, the Lord began to say to me, "Open the book." And I didn't understand what he meant at first. And when I was scrolling through my Bible, he took me to Joseph. And then he brought to my remembrance a movie that I was watching called The Gladiator. Everybody remember that movie? Has anybody seen that movie, The Gladiator? Okay. Well, in The Gladiator, his name was Marcus Aurelius. And he had a family. He had a wife and he had a son. And he was one of the top generals in the emperor's army. And when I was watching this movie and I began to watch it, it kind of compared to Joseph. And he was one of the top generals. Well, the emperor had already had another son. And because the emperor had another son, this particular son caught jealousy because the top general found favor with the emperor. Well, because the general found favor with the emperor, on the emperor's deathbed, because he got sick during the war, it was cold and he had gotten sick. And he was laying there and he was talking to Marcus and telling him what he wanted as his dying wish. And so before anything could be carried out, the son killed him. And he killed him because he could not open the book to the top general, to Marcus, to see what it was inside of him that made his father want to have him rule his kingdom. When I looked over to Joseph, Joseph was a dreamer. Joseph had gifts. However, every time he had a dream, he would go back, he would tell his father would do different things for him. And his brothers got jealous. Now, yes, some of us have that spirit where when we have gifts and we have talents, we kind of rub off on people the wrong way. And that is why we have to be careful as men and even young people when we're in school that we don't rub people the wrong way when we have gifts, when we have talents. And so for some of us in his brother's minds, they thought that he was acting a little arrogant. And so one particular night, he ended up being sold. And he ended up being taken into Egypt. Well, Marcus ended up being sold. And Marcus ended up being sold to a gladiator, a former gladiator, who won his freedom by way of fighting his way through the arena. And so as Marcus went on throughout the story, Marcus began to win different people by talking to them and having integrity and being honest and showing love and showing compassion and showing them that they didn't have to be all of that to be around him. And so the first fight, he won. He had a team behind him. He won. The second fight, he won. But the emperor's son began to notice something. He began to notice that this is not an ordinary man. And so as the story goes on, it finally comes to the point where the emperor steps down from his throne and he comes into the arena and asks the man to remove his mask. And when he removed his mask, because gladiators wore masks back then, they didn't show their face when they were battling. And when he removed his mask, he said, "My name is Marcus Aurelius." And he said, "Servant of the emperor." And he began to go through who he was. And the son got mad. So if we look at Joseph, Joseph worked his way up through the ranks. He began to, be on the good side of Potiphar. Well, his wife set him up. And because he was set up, Joseph ended up in prison for a very long time. And when he got out of prison because he had a dream. And he told the people in the prison, don't forget me. Don't forget what I told you. Don't forget the dream that I had. Well, one of the particular people ended up dying, so he never got to share his dream. However, one of the particular people ended up telling Pharaoh about this man. As he began to tell Pharaoh about this man, Pharaoh requested this man's presence. And as he began to request this man's presence, he began to share with him what the dream that he had, what it meant. And because he shared this information with him, long story short, Pharaoh made him hierarchy. I'll put it that way. And Pharaoh ruled, Joseph ruled. And as Joseph ruled, I noticed something. The same people that sold him is the same people that had to come right back around. Right back. And they needed, at that time there was a famine going on, so they needed grain and different things to keep them throughout this famine. Well, they had to come back around and see the very same person that they just sold. Yes. And I'm going to make this short, but what I'm trying to say to you is, just all you have to do is open the book. There are going to be a lot of people that are going to judge the outside of you. And they're going to judge you by your hair. And they're going to judge you by your looks. And they're going to judge you by what you wear. And they're going to judge you by how you sing and how you dance and how you shout and how you do different things. But the funny thing is, what makes you a king is the fact that when somebody can open your book and see that you have integrity and see that you are honest and see that you are trustworthy and see that you're not arrogant. The reason why I can say this is because there was a time where, and there are still times, there are times where I can be arrogant and there are times